Good evening, everyone. My name is Rochelle Macker, and I'm the Alumni Officer with Alumni UBC here at the Okinawa campus. It's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's presentation, Maximizing the Power of LinkedIn to Build Your Career, presented by Alumni UBC in partnership with Career Services. It's great to see that so many of you are interested in learning how to put the best possible use on social media. I've heard from current students that LinkedIn is just like Facebook. If you're one of those students, you're in the right place. Hopefully by the end of this presentation, you would have dispelled that myth, and you'll be ready to set up an effective profile that will get you noticed and connected professionally. So now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome tonight's guest speaker, Melanie Lazaro. Melanie is the author of the #1 international bestseller, The LinkedIn Code. She is also the founder of Top Dog Social Media, an agency that helps businesses, sales teams, and professionals use LinkedIn and social selling to boost their visibility, attract new customers, and increase their revenue. Dubbed by the media as Canada's #1 LinkedIn expert, she is highly sought after internationally as a LinkedIn and social selling speaker and trainer. You can learn more about Melanie at topdogsocialmedia.com and thelinkedIncode.com. Melanie?
Well, I've traveled here all the way from downtown Kelowna. I never get to say that because I'm always like traveling in the States or other places in Canada. Like, I'm from Kelowna, BC. Have you ever heard that? And like one or two hands will come up. So it's kind of Kelowna here in the level. So I just want to get a feel for who's in the audience, where you guys are at. Because I know Michelle said that she's invited board-through students, some alumni, and kind of opened it up to other students too. So can you just raise your hand if you're fourth year, if you're alumni, and if you are lesser than 4 year. Okay, cool. So who thinks LinkedIn is just like Facebook? Nobody. Good. You know, there's a lot of people out there that don't like LinkedIn because they think it's boring. And if we were talking about a social network where we're going to have fun and interact and engage with our friends and share pictures and share what we have for dinner and stuff like that, LinkedIn is kind of boring. But what LinkedIn is meant to do is to connect you with employers, and as you become employed, connect you with vendors, potential leads, prospects, clients, depending on what line of work you go into. So there's a lot of opportunity. It's essentially a big part of your professional brand, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. Now, tell me, how many of you in here feel pretty savvy with social media in general? And how many don't? Does anybody feel like this when you think about social media? Yeah? Especially LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is a little bit more of a mystery. And this is exactly what I felt like in 2007 when I was just discovering social media. Kind of a quick story for you guys. I'm originally from Ontario. I've lived in Kelowna now for 10.5 years, so I consider myself a BC girl now. But my family and my friends, most of them still live out in Ontario. And so in 2007, I had my sister and my mom. My mom was on social media before me. My cousins and my friends all invited me to join Facebook. And I'm like, what is this stupid Facebook? I've never even heard of it. What is it? Oh, it's you want to promote? I'm a very private person. I'm like, put myself online? Are you crazy? No way. Well, after a couple of months of being very, very protective of my Facebook profile and only allowing my family and immediate friends, I started to discover that there was a business application to it. And in social media in general, and I had just written a book. And before writing this book, I had sold a few businesses that I had. And I was like, gosh, I want to market businesses. You just spend a whole bunch of money on ads, right? TV, radio, newspaper, billboards. That's what I did. And I was like, how do you market a $20 book? And I just couldn't figure it out. I thought maybe social media might be, a great good platform for that. So I started studying everything I could. Literally became a full-time student for 3 years. From reading books, attending seminars, hiring coaches, taking courses, traveling all over North America to learn everything I could about social media and online marketing. And here's what I learned. There's only 2 types of social media, despite the fact that we think there's, hundreds, and there's all these different platforms, and everybody's trying to start a new one all the time. There's one that makes friends, and this is great, Facebook's perfect for this, right? You correspond with your friends, and, see what's going on in their life. And there's another one that makes money if you're in business, or in your case, if you're looking for a job, attracts employers, when done right. Now, there's some interesting stats that make LinkedIn very different from Facebook or Twitter or some of the other social media platforms out there. The first one is it's a growing platform. There's 2 new people joining every second. The last numbers I heard, there's 9 million Canadians using it. So if you do the math, I believe we're at 33 million Canadians right now. You take out the seniors that have no need for business or employment or anything. You take out the young children. You take out some of you guys who haven't quite finished school yet and aren't really thinking about that. You take out the stay-at-home moms, and you take out some of the skilled laborers that, just technology, I don't need technology, they have flip phones still, right? That's the vast majority of the population. That's the entire professional population. So anybody you want to connect with on LinkedIn that's professional, you will be able to find. Now, some of them use it more actively and more frequently than others, but everybody that is a professional can be typically found on LinkedIn. LinkedIn also got a much higher affluent member base. It's a much more professional social network than Facebook or Twitter. The average household income on LinkedIn is $190,000. So, if you were to look at the numbers on Facebook and Twitter, they're tens of thousands of dollars less. This is kind of interesting. People are 2 times more likely to believe what they read on LinkedIn, to be confident in what they read on LinkedIn, versus Facebook or Twitter. Anybody have any idea why that is? I don't know either, but here's my guess. Nobody's posting cat memes and sharing what they have for lunch on LinkedIn. And if they are, trust me, they're using LinkedIn very incorrectly. The last one is, it's utilized by 1 out of 3 professionals in the world. So worldwide, those numbers that I mentioned about Canada, 9 million Canadians in relation to 33 million, it's the same thing worldwide. The U.S., very much similar to us. There's something else that's really important to understand about LinkedIn. It's essentially your personal brand going forward and going into your future and going into your career. Here's why. Everybody knows that if they want to learn something about you, whether it's a potential boyfriend or girlfriend, or a potential employer, or a potential client, once you get to that point where you've got, Don, maybe you're working with clients, they know that they can find out anything that they want to find out about you by Googling your name. LinkedIn's got really powerful Google indexing. So what happens is that profile shows at the top of the search results. Sometimes in the first spot, sometimes in the second, sometimes in the third, depending on how active you are, online. I've got multiple websites and stuff like that. When my LinkedIn profile still shows at the top. So what happens is your LinkedIn profile is often your first online impression. So if it doesn't look good, and they land on it to learn more about you, you're really not representing your personal brand very well. And the generation that we're in right now, it doesn't matter what company you work for, it doesn't matter if you decide to become an entrepreneur or your own business owner, there is a personal brand attached to each and every one of us. And that personal brand you can take with you anywhere you go. For example, I train a lot of sales teams. So I travel around and train sales teams for different organizations on how to use LinkedIn for lead generation. So how they can stop picking up the phone and making these cold calls and irritating, aggravating people and not getting anywhere. I show them how to connect with decision makers the right way using LinkedIn, and I teach them how to do this. Well, everything that these sales guys for these different companies do to build their network, to build their personal brand, they own. They take it with them to their next job. So if at any time they get a better opportunity or a new opportunity, they want to move on, that personal brand that they've developed carries forward, as do the connections that they've built. So the big mistake that people make with LinkedIn is they just think it's an online resume site. And so for those of you who are going to be looking for a job in the near future, you can kind of treat it like that for a little while. A little bit. You want to be a little bit more focused and strategic, and I'll share some strategies around how to do that today. But it's not just your resume, because people don't just care about learning about you. They want to know about how you might be able to help them. In your case, it's how you might be able to help them fill a position that might be well suited for you. As a business owner, it's how you can help them with the services that you offer. So I developed a 3-step formula to lay the foundation for a great profile on LinkedIn. And again, once you can follow these steps today, and once you get a job, you might want to go back and tweak your profile a little bit, take out the employer speaking stuff and make it a little bit more focused on what you're doing. But this is the first step that you're going to want to do to actually get to that point. Every day, employers and people are looking for people on LinkedIn. They're looking for people that are going to fill positions. They're looking for people that can do projects for them. So, for example, if I'm looking for a new website developer, I might go on LinkedIn and type in website developer and see what comes up. Those that are showing up at the top of the search results are the only ones that are getting seen. Just like when you do a Google search. When you do a Google search, do you get page 5 of Google? No? I was at a social media event that I speak at each year in San Diego, and one of the speakers there said, "Guess where the best place to hide a dead body is? Page 2 of Google." Same thing with LinkedIn, right? If you're not getting found, it's a lost opportunity. You also want to attract your ideal employer right within your profile. So if your profile is just not really speaking to them and what they need, it might not resonate as well with them. And then the last one is to stand out. Social media is noisy. We all know that. There's billions of people using it, hundreds of millions using LinkedIn. So you need to do some things to stand out. And having a completed profile is one of the easiest things that you can do to actually stand out, because most people have a lousy one. And as you start spending a little bit of time on LinkedIn, you'll quickly see that. So let's dive into each of these steps. As I mentioned to you, each day people are doing searches on LinkedIn. If you've got a specific position that you're going to be seeking once you complete school, whether it's an industrial engineer or whatever it is, those are the key words that you want to be found for when somebody's doing searches. So there's ways that you can get found. You want to ideally be showing up in the top spot. The top of page 1 would be great, but anywhere on page 1 would be great, because people will typically scroll down. Some people's profiles can be missing pictures, they'll have a boring block headline. So even if you're maybe down at number 5, but your profile stands out more than everybody else's, you could be the first one that they click on. So the key is you want to pick the right keywords so that you show up. Should an employer be looking for what you offer? And like I said, is anybody planning on doing anything entrepreneurial after school? After you're done? Or everybody one person? So everybody's looking for a job once you finish school? Okay. So whatever it is that you're planning on doing, you want to use those keywords. So if you're looking for a position, I'll use industrial engineer again, just as an example, or electrical engineer. You want to put those words, that term, throughout your profile, because as you do, it's just like a website, and if you're familiar with SEO and how you rank up in the website, it's the same thing. So you want to be showing up for those specific keywords. And there's some places that you can put them to really enhance your placement and where you're going to show up. There's 4 key places, but there's a couple of others that you can put them in that will also enhance it, especially if you're choosing a keyword that's fairly competitive. Sometimes you can choose one that's not very competitive, and you don't have to work as hard to show up at the top. The first one is your headline. So in your headline, you want to make sure that you include 1 or 2 keywords So, for example, if you were going into, is there anybody in business or marketing in the room? Okay, so what are you thinking about doing? Pretty girl right here. What are you thinking about doing when you finish school? What kind of position would you seek? So, marketing specialist, a marketing coordinator, you know, I'm thinking like terms like that, right? So you could use terms like that, but pay attention to the job postings that your ideal employers are using, and look at the language that they're using. That's going to be important too, to choose those words. And you want to have a couple of them in your headline, and it could be, you know, UBC graduate of, you know, this program seeking a position as a marketing coordinator or marketing specialist. That could be your headline. You've got your keywords in it, says who you are and what you want to do. Let's just go back. Okay, and then current work experience. This is going to be tough for you guys because you might not have a current work experience in doing what you're studying and what you're looking for. So what you could do, this is like super ninja stuff that I'm teaching you here, because it's kind of like, doesn't really, kind of breaks the rules in a way, but when you do it right, it's fun. So here's what I would do if I was you guys. Fresh out of school, wanting to start something new. I would create a current position, doing what it is you want to do, and say, you know, I'm seeking positions in this, so that your profile is fully optimized for that. So you've got your headline, you've got your summary, which we'll talk a little bit more about shortly, and then you've got your current position where you can put right in the title, marketing coordinator and marketing specialist, or seeking a position as marketing coordinator and marketing specialist, UBC graduate, or something like that, right? And then you can say, you know, here's some of the things that I did while I was in school, some of the projects that I worked on, some of the things that I did, some of the placements that I did, or whatever, and just share some of your expertise and some of the stuff that you bring to the table, any awards or anything like that. So that's kind of a sneaky way of creating a current position, even if you don't have one. If you've been doing something in terms of, you know, what you've been doing, what you're studying for, in a personal basis, then you don't have to worry about that. You already have that. LinkedIn also likes it when you have a past work experience that also uses the same keywords. And by the way, remember I said you're going to choose a couple of keywords and you're going to put them in your headline, you're going to put them in the title of your current work experience, you're going to put them in one past work experience. This is tough. You don't have a past one. You might have done a placement or, you know, some kind of a placement thing where you can then have a past one. Use that. If you don't have one, don't worry about it. Once you get a job, you can just, you know, kind of incorporate something in there and fill out some past work experience. But I'm sure most of you guys have something in past work experience that you can actually include. And then the fourth places you want to have, again, the same keywords, using your summary section. What happens is when somebody's doing a search on LinkedIn, and you show them the search results, you know, your picture, your headline, stuff like that's going to determine whether they're going to click on your profile. Once they click on your profile, the very first thing that they're going to go to is your summary section. This is the first thing that they see, that they land there. So this becomes the most important part of your profile once they land on it. So let's talk a little bit about how to do that in a moment. But before we do that, one of the things that you're going to find really cool is as you start applying some of the stuff I'm talking about, you'll notice the amount of times that you get found on LinkedIn and the amount of people viewing your profile will exponentially increase. So you can go to your profile before you get started making any changes and write down what those numbers are. You see numbers like that. Maybe, you know, I've had 3 people view my profile in the last 60 days. Then I'm understanding most of you guys aren't very active on LinkedIn, so you probably have pretty low numbers there, which is fine. And then, as you optimize your profile with keywords and you fill it out in its entirety, that number will skyrocket where people will be, you'll be showing up in the search results a whole lot more often. Well, that's going to be very beneficial when employers and recruiters are doing searches. And this is the best part. Remember I talked earlier about SEO and websites and, you know, how you show up at the top of Google search? Well, you can spend a lot of time, energy, and money waiting to get there. Some people never get there. Some people stay on page 5 of Google, or page 50 of Google, or page 500,000 of Google. When you make these changes in LinkedIn, you instantly go from, let's say you were currently in page 5 to page 1, or you are page 50 to page 1. The changes are instant. This is really great for all of us who love instant gratification. Isn't it nice? Go and make a few tweaks and bang, you're on page 1. Okay, so the next step is attracting your ideal employers right within your profile. So this kind of goes against what I was talking about earlier. You know, how most people think of LinkedIn as a place where they should just post their resume. Your profile is all about you, not necessarily going to speak to your ideal employer. It might, if you've written it really well and you talk about like accomplishments and skills and abilities, it might still speak to them. But the more targeted you can get in speaking to specific types of employers you're looking to attract with doing the services that or the position that you're looking to fill, the better. So this starts with writing a really great summary section. You want to have it focused on the employers or the industries or whatever that you want to target. First thing you want to do is forget about the boring bio and the boring resume. In this section here, you want to focus on who you are. You want to share a little bit of your story. You want to write it in first person. A lot of people use LinkedIn as a very formal kind of thing. So we'll write in third person. You know, no one goes there as a social media speaker, LinkedIn expert, author, blah, blah, blah. Or I'll say, you know, I'm the author of the LinkedIn Code, founder of social media. I'm speaking to a person in first person. So do that because many people, I mean, there's a lot of differing opinions on this. But the big thing that you need to remember is that LinkedIn is a social network. It might be a business social network where people aren't posting those cat memes and pictures of lunch, but it's still a social network, so you want to be social. You want to identify who your ideal employers are right within your summary section. So how you can do this is if you want to work for specific industries, right? You can literally say, I'm currently seeking a position in companies that are software developers, or you just kind of name off these different types of companies, banks, construction companies, whatever it is. You just list off, these are the 3 areas or industries that I'm looking at working in, and then talk about what you can bring to the table with each one. So you say, I'm looking to seek a position in the manufacturing industry, in the computer science industry, in this. As a alumni or graduate from UBC, I've spent X amount of years studying, blah, blah, blah. What do I bring to the table? Sharing a little bit about that. So this is very different than just talking about yourself. It's kind of talking to them a little bit more. The problems that they have in filling that position and what they're looking for. Key thing to think about is watch the job postings of the people that you want to work for. What language are they using? What problems are they describing? Incorporate that. If your company's struggling with, getting the right marketing in front of the right audience, I can help by this, okay? You want to share how you help them. You want to remember, the only thing that anybody cares about, whether they're a potential client, an employer, a recruiter, care about themselves. They don't care about you, they don't care about me. What they care about is what we can do for them. So if you can build a position that they need filled and do the job well, that's what they want to know. So you want to really share how you can help them. You also want to give them a call to action. So let's say, for example, somebody lands on your profile and thinks, well, this is a really well-written profile. This person looks very professional. I think I'm going to reach out to them and request an interview. At the end of the day, I'll wait till tomorrow to do that. And then tomorrow comes around and they forget. And the next week comes around and I'm like, gosh, who is that person that I found on LinkedIn that I wanted to reach out to? And they just can't remember. So if you give them a call to action, a one sentence that says, if you are looking for a marketing coordinator and marketing specialist that's motivated and ambitious and willing to work hard, and that you'd like to add to your team. I would be thrilled to talk to you about how I could benefit your company. Email me at, phone me at, whatever you want me to do. And tell them what to do, because if you don't tell them what to do, they might do nothing, or they might think I'll get to it later and forget. You want to really, really drill this through your head, and it's so counterintuitive, because our LinkedIn profile is about us. But if you make it all about you, it's not going to resonate with anybody. You want to speak to your target audience. And at this stage of the game, that target audience is your ideal employers. So your target, your LinkedIn profile needs to be employer focused, and in order to do that, you need to know that target audience. You need to know who they are. You need to know when they're speaking, what language they're using, and so forth. So it's really important that you spend some time looking at the job descriptions that they've used in past and current, openings that they have. On LinkedIn, they have jobs postings in newspapers. Just start to pay attention. Look at their websites. Some of the employers that you might be interested in working with. What's their mission? What's important to them? Start to pay attention to that. The last step is to stand out. And although social media is very noisy, which we've already established, this is the easiest step of all. Just complete your entire profile. Literally, your entire profile. It's not like creating a Facebook page. It doesn't take more than 30 minutes. It might take you 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. I don't know. Depends on how much you've already done, or how good your writing skills are, or how much clarity you have. But if it takes you 6 hours, or even 8, and you've got a killer LinkedIn profile that you're only going to need to modify slightly after you get a job, it's going to represent your personal brand that you're barely going to have to make changes to again. Would that not be a good investment of your time? Come on, I want to see some hands. Yes or no? Yeah? Okay. I've done lots of LinkedIn workshops where we literally spend the whole day just working on a profile. And these are business people that are using it to find business. So it's really important for them to be, really dialed in. The other thing that you need to do is have a professional headshot. So, the stuff that goes on Facebook, that works on Facebook, doesn't work on LinkedIn. I'll give you another example. I was doing a seminar a while back, and I had this one guy in a seminar that was a sales guy for a company. And so he's like, no, can you pull up my profile and give me a little critique? So I pull up his profile on the screen, and you've got this picture of him in this big dish. Proudly displaying it. I'm like, fine for Facebook. Yeah, not LinkedIn. So, same thing. You don't even want to have pictures of your spouse, or your boyfriend, or your dog, or your skiing trip. You want your picture. People want to be able to see who they're connecting with. And worse, no picture at all, right? Whenever I get no picture at all requests, I don't know if it's a fake account, but I don't accept them. So, have a professional headshot. Have a smile. Let them see your eyes, close up, clean backgrounds. Go to Walmart, spend $10. Okay, it doesn't have to be, elaborate. If you got, a friend that's got a good camera that can take one on a clean background, do that and save $10. But it's a worthwhile investment. This might not be something that you might do right away, but at any time you can add video and multimedia to your profile. And what would be cool is if you were comfortable creating videos. So I would imagine most of you young people are. Is there anybody that's not comfortable creating videos? Well, I used to hate videos. I used to be terrified of public speaking too, so I've had to make some big mental shifts to get past all that. But you could create a video for your profile that speaks to employers. Here's who I am. Here's what I specialize in. Here's why I think you should interview me. Here's what I'm looking for. Let people know you. Or if you've got, if you've got somebody that you did a placement for, that will give you a testimonial video. You can include that in your profile. If you've got, some white papers or any kind of special projects and stuff that you've done that you want to upload in the form of a PDF or a slideshow presentation, you can do that. It enhances the look of your profile, makes it much more visual. I like a video because it gives a more human element to your profile. You know, LinkedIn and most of the social networks out there don't allow for any formatting, so the profiles, you know, text heavy, and you know, there's just not a lot of visual stuff. So I have video or any other kind of multimedia really adds an element of visual appeal. The other thing you should do, and remember I told you there's 4 places to put those keywords, those positions that you're looking to achieve. This is the 5th. This is the bonus one. Make sure you put them in your skills section. And as time goes by, you're going to have people that will endorse you for those skills. Those little pictures that are right next to it. A lot of controversy about this, because people are like, well, you know, what's the big deal? All of them you have to do is click a button. And I get all these endorsements all the time. These people I don't even know. They can't mean anything. I agree, they really don't mean much. However, there is a little bit of an element of social proof with all those little pictures. You only got one little picture, 0 social proof, right? But if you've got a lot, like if you go to my profile, you'll see, you click on the little arrow at the far end, you'll see the top one, I got, you know, 1,200 or 1,500 endorsements just for that one term. And many of mine are like that. Now, that's the other benefit. The more of those you get, the higher you get pushed up in LinkedIn search results. So it actually affects the search algorithm. So that's the thing that most people who are like, oh, these are stupid, they don't mean anything, are missing. They don't realize that that impacts. So for example, if I had the identical profile to somebody else, and my social media marketing keyword has 1,500 endorsements. I don't know exactly how many it has, but let's just use round numbers. And something else with the exact same profile as me has 200. I'm going to show up higher. So that's the value stat. Social proof, I talked about those little pictures. Where the social proof really comes into play is recommendations. This is where somebody's taken the time to physically write a recommendation. Get some recommendations from people that you've definitely kind of worked with during your school time, any part-time jobs you've had, you know, anybody that you can get to give you a recommendation that can give you a valid recommendation, a real recommendation. Don't get fluff on your profile, because fluff isn't going to help you. You don't want somebody that you babysat their kids when they were 12 saying, oh, yeah, Mommy is so sweet, she's such a good little babysitter. It's not going to help you. So it's got to be something that's going to actually have some meat to it. This will often make a difference between getting a client in your business or getting a job. Talk about social proof for 1 minute, because this is really important. Remember I shared the story with you guys about how I got involved in social media very reluctantly? I got involved in social media because my family started using it. And then my friends started using it. And then after, I was kind of, you know, one of the earlier adopters, but then business people started using it. Competitors, colleagues, peers started using it. That's why we use social media today. Because we saw our friends or our family using it, and we found ourselves using it too. Amazon realized years ago that people were no longer buying their products based on the manufacturer write-up of the product or the great marketing copy. Didn't matter at all. What they were buying the products based on was the reviews. So that's really, really important. Social proof is a really powerful indicator. Because basically, when somebody's in doubt of who to do business with, or in your case, who to hire, they look to the decisions that others have made. And that's why social proof becomes so important. This is an example of social proof that everybody will get. You know, say you're on a little trip outside Barcelona, maybe a road trip somewhere, you're in a new city, and you're like, what should we go for dinner? And you're kind of craving Italian tonight. We walk by this nice little Italian restaurant, look through the window, and you're like, gosh, there's only 2 people in there. Can't be that good. And then you see a restaurant down the street, you've got a line up in front. Well, oh my gosh, that place must be a place to go. Well, the reality of it is that restaurant with 2 people in it might have this wonderful little Italian grandmother in the kitchen cooking homemade spaghetti and meatballs and eggplant parmesan and all these wonderful things. to die for, because they exist. But there's another restaurant down the street, it's just hot food. And it's something special, but it's a happening place. It's a place that people go to, so they're like, well, we should go there. So it's just another great example of social group. One of the other things you should consider doing is joining groups on LinkedIn. One of the groups that you guys can join is the alumni. Can I join the alumni now? Yes, okay. Join the alumni group. This is a great place to build your network with the people that you've been with for the last several years, and also people who have been here before you, because they might be in positions that can hire you now. Right? There's lots of opportunities there. So look at the different groups you can join. One of the things that's really important to know, too, is you do need to spend a little bit of time growing your network, because if you don't have a network that's very big, very few people can find you. So this is where joining groups comes into play and is very effective. Basically, let's say an employer was looking for somebody to fill a position that you could fill. And you were showing, you had your profile optimized well, you followed my advice, you're showing up at the top of the search results. Here's the problem. They're only showing up at the top of the search results for the people that are part of their first, second, and third degree network, or a member of the same group. Okay, so my first network is Rochelle. Rochelle and I are connected on LinkedIn. Anybody that Rochelle is connected to that I'm not connected to becomes my second network. And anybody that, let's say, person B, that I'm not connected to, but Rochelle is connected to, that they're connected to, becomes person C, becomes my third level network. And groups, sometimes groups can have thousands, sometimes groups can have hundreds of thousands of people, and so it massively increases your network. And you can join 50 groups, so you can just join groups alone, open up your exposure to a lot more opportunity. You can also connect and send messages to fellow group members. So as you're wanting to build your network out and connect with more people, instead of just joining these groups, start connecting with some people in these groups. So you can send a message and say, hey, when did you, how long ago did you finish at UBC, whatever. All kinds of different things that you can do to just stimulate a conversation. I'm going to share with you guys now some principles that I wrote about in my book, LinkedIn Code. I've adapted them a little bit for you guys to fit the, speaking for an employment type of situation. Normally these are much more business related, but they will work. So the first one, this is a little anagram that I created as part of LinkedIn Code. First one is listen. I talked about this a little bit earlier. I want you to listen to the language that your ideal employers are using on LinkedIn. Not just on LinkedIn, but they're using it in job postings, on their websites, during conversations. Listen to the things that they're using. And if you're doing interviews, listen to the stuff they're saying. Take down notes. Because that can be some really great content to put both in your messages to people going forward, as well as modify your LinkedIn profile. The next one is invest. You want to invest the time to complete your profile. Whether it's 3 hours, 6 hours, or 8 hours, spend the time. Remember, this is an important part of your personal brand that's going to go forward forever until you retire and say, I care less about anything anymore. And you'll probably still keep moving your job network with a whole bunch of people you don't like. You want to focus on needs. Your profile, especially your headline, your summary, really needs to speak to the needs of the ideal employers that you're looking to work for. You want to ensure that it's focused on them and that language that you've gotten is really incorporated. Keywords, let's talk to you about that. Make sure you use your keywords towards your profile. You want to use it in all the spots I've talked about, as well as other spots that you can slide in. If you've done any volunteer positions that are related to what you do, you can have a volunteer section within your profile. There's an interest section where you can put, and I have another little ninja trick for the interest section. I put, my personal interests, reading, travel, personal development, fitness, blah, blah, blah. And then I write professional interests, and I just load up my keywords. And it doesn't look spammy at all, because everything I teach and do is very kind of, under the radar. People can show up at the top of the search results on LinkedIn doing all kinds of spammy keyword loading things. I have people that show up above me sometimes that are trying to say that they do the same thing as me, and you click on their profile, and they just replicate the same words over and over. They don't have any context or any text other than keywords. It's just like over and over and over again. They can show up at the top of the search results all day and all night. The minute somebody clicks on that, they've lost all credibility. So I'm just giving you some sly little ways to hide them in different spots to really make sure that you don't only get there, but you stay there. And again, it talks about this. Remember, it talks about visually enhancing your LinkedIn profile, adding multimedia, add PDF documents, add slideshow presentations, add video if you get a chance. Video of yourself, video testimonials, whatever. It's also important for you to develop an outreach plan so that you can start reaching out to decision makers, hiring decision makers on LinkedIn. So once your profile looks great, start reaching out to people. Don't just wait around for a job posting to come up either. You connect with some of these people who kind of just watch. And if you're 3 or 4 months away from finishing school, why not do it now? Now's the perfect time. Initiate. You want to initiate conversations. You want to initiate new relationships and starting dialogues. You want to do this by personalizing your messages, your replies, and your connection requests. Do not ever send a connection request to somebody that you don't know, that doesn't know you really, really well, without a personal note telling them why you want to connect with them. It could be as simple as, hey, I noticed that you're a UBC alumni, and I thought it would be great to connect. I'm, 3 months away from graduating school, and just love connecting with people that have already been there, done that. I mean, that's not exactly what you say, but it's just, that simple, okay? Just sharing something, giving them a reason. Now, certain apps on iPhones and iPads and different things, they've recently integrated where you can personalize your notes. Up until recently, you couldn't personalize it. I don't use apps for doing any connections because of the fact that they were so restricted and they didn't allow me to do certain things in the past. So I always use it for my desktop. It is my understanding now that you can now personalize your apps, but be careful. If you're going to test it out with one of your friends, something that don't test it out with an employer. And in fact, I think that you're going to be better off sitting in front of a computer where you can see it full screen and self-check and do everything. If you're looking for a job, okay, if you're discussing friends and family, so you just met, no big deal. It's important to nurture your relationships on LinkedIn by staying in touch with new connections. So let's say, for example, you start reaching out now to some potential employers. But if they don't have any positions open right now, and you don't even need a job for 4 more months, for example. Stay in touch. Stay in touch. Watch what they're doing on LinkedIn. If they're starting conversations, comment, like, or share their stuff. Stay on their radar. And initiate, reach out to them. If you come across something, an article or something that would be beneficial to somebody in the industry that you're looking for, like let's say, for example, you were looking to work for, I'm trying to think of a good example. I just had 3 that popped in my mind, none of them are ideal. Was that? Yeah, okay. You're thinking about working for Flightcraft. They might be interested in knowing that there's a new discount airline that's coming into Kelowna that's partnering with another one of the smaller airlines. And when that press release comes out, or Castnet or the Daily Courier starts to talk about it, that might be, chances are they'll know about it before you guys know about it anyways. So that might not be the best example, but it's a great example in that you can share something. Or let's say, for example, I just got interviewed from, I don't even know, I can't even remember which publication it is. It's in the magazine. They wanted me to analyze 7 campaigns, some of the best 7 campaigns and what made them successful. You guys remember WestJet's campaign last year when they gave everybody Christmas gifts? That was a phenomenal campaign. They wanted to analyze that and share what my thought was about why not being that successful. So let's say you're dealing with Lightcraft, and you say, God, did you see that campaign that Webcast did? Wasn't that phenomenal? Would love your thoughts on that. And it just starts a conversation. So, or what do you think they could have done differently? Or, anything to just kind of start a conversation. Okay, the next part is code. The first one is connect. You want to make an effort to regularly build your network. You want to connect with new potential employers. You want to connect with alumni. You want to connect with other students. You want to just build your network, because remember that these employers can only find you if you're part of the first, second, third degree network or a member of the same group. So it's really important to start taking some time to build that network out. The other thing that I want you to think about is social media. And this is social media as a whole. Probably 95% of the people that I know today are now on social media, because I've got a global audience now, and I just have met so many people. But a relationship is not really a relationship if it's kept on social media, is it? I think, one of the problems that we have, and I'm kind of one of those people because I love technology, and I'm a bit of an introvert, and, I don't necessarily want to go out and have coffee with people all the time and stuff like that. So I tend to stay home a lot, work from home, but when I go and meet somebody in real life, or if I'm speaking at an event where I know other speakers but I've only met them online, like through social media, and I meet them in person, that relationship changes dramatically, where it actually builds. Now it's a real relationship. So think about that. Don't just keep everything online. You need to start doing things offline. And I think that this is more important than ever, because we become so involved with technology. I think that people are really craving and missing the human element that those of us that are a little older used to experience. So it's something that's important to know, and especially with employers. I mean, you want to get on the phone with them, have a conversation with them. You want to meet in person, whatever that is. A message on LinkedIn or an email message or a message on Facebook or Twitter isn't going to do much. So you need to take those relationships to the next level. Same thing once you're in your position. If you're going to start interacting with vendors and suppliers and clients and prospects and whoever, engage with them. Move those conversations offline. The other suggestion I would give you is to dedicate time to this every day. My suggestion would be, spend your time on revamping your profile, get that up to speed so that you look great. And then spend 15 to 30 minutes a day for the next while to start to build that network and start to grow it and start to just watch what other people are doing and engage in conversations when opportunities come up. This is one I'm really big on. I have an entire chapter in my book, The LinkedIn Code, on etiquette. There is spoken and unspoken rules of etiquette for every social network. What do you guys think on Facebook when you start seeing people on Facebook pitch their shit? Like, they're just trying to sell crap all the time. Does it bother you? It bothers everybody. Everybody complains about it all the time. There's lots of posts and stuff like that. Everybody's trying to pitch and sell and just irritate people. Nobody's interested in that on Facebook. And that's why Facebook is not very effective with most businesses. Certainly not for B2B businesses. Businesses that deal with other businesses. And consumer businesses and restaurants and travel and fun stuff can do okay on Facebook if they're willing to pay. You gotta pay for the ads and stuff like that. But on LinkedIn, it's really important to be professional. So if you don't want to be posting, you don't have to guard your LinkedIn profile at all, because you should never be posting anything personal. You never have to worry about anybody saying, first of all, you should never be posting anything online, period, that you're not comfortable with the whole world seeing, because you're leaving a digital footprint. So if you've left a digital footprint with some areas that need to be cleaned up, start cleaning them up right away. Means inappropriate pictures. I don't mean like inappropriate pictures, but start hanging out and partying in bars with friends. Lawyers can see that. You don't want them to see that. So start removing that kind of stuff, and just understand that there's certain rules of etiquette that are really important that needs to be addressed with each network. With LinkedIn, Personalization, that's a big one. Don't ask, I get this all the time, I get random strangers asking me sometimes to give them a LinkedIn recommendation. Like, I don't know you, I would not recommend you. I teach LinkedIn courses all the time, and tons of people that I don't know give me recommendations. I've got, I don't even know how many, maybe 120 or so on my LinkedIn profile. Most of these people I don't even know, some of them I've worked with, but most of them have taken, courses that I've offered, or read my book, or watched me speak at events, and they just go online and say, Melanie, I incorporated what you told me to do, and one day this happened, and 1 week this happened, or whatever. And I'm like, thank you so much for that recommendation, it's wonderful. And of course, I would like to reciprocate. I don't say this to them, I don't offer to reciprocate. But I would like to reciprocate to somebody who's taking time to do that for me. But I can't, because I don't know them. I can't give a valid recommendation. It would just be fluff. And it would be nothing. And if that person turned out to be a very bad person, it negatively affects me, because now I'm connected to them. Right? So, important to know. All right, so these items that I just mentioned to you, the LinkedIn code items, if you wanted to download that little cheat sheet, you can download it. Like I said to you, I did adapt it a little bit to you guys today, because normally it's talking about business, but it still follows the same principle. So if you want to download that, you can go to licodecheatsheet.com and just download that and have that as an easy reference. And for you guys who may have missed anything in your notes, because I know you're all very studious and taking notes, I'll just do a real quick recap, just to make it business. Okay, so when you're optimizing your profile, when you're choosing those couple of keywords for the position that you're looking for, you want to add them to your headline. Current work experience, or maybe a workaround on that, just in case you don't have one. Past work experience, if it's relevant. Summary section, and remember I gave you a fifth one, a bonus one. What was that? Skills. The skills section. You can put up to 50 skills. So have your couple of keywords in there, and have a whole bunch of other ones in there too. So like for example, if you're looking at brand and marketing, you might want to have keywords that talk about branding, social media, and television advertising. I mean, you can have all kinds of different things. When you're writing your summary section, or when you're writing your profile as a whole, your headline, your summary section, you want to make sure that you're attracting your ideal employers. So write in first person, be sociable, identify who they are, share how you can help them, and give them that call to action. Again, that call to action, one sentence. If I can help you with this, or if you're looking for this or this, I'd love to speak to you about how I can add tremendous value to your organization. Email me at. Okay? Stand out. This is the easiest of the three. Add a profile picture. Complete your profile in its entirety. Add a video or multimedia if you have them right now. If you don't, that's something that you can add at a later date. It's as easy as just adding that link or uploading a file. Okay, so we're really super easy. Add skills and, start getting some endorsements from friends and family initially, just so they're not blank. They're not strangers to endorse you. If you want to get endorsements from others, there's a little trick. Social media is very much another law of reciprocity. We have 65,000 Twitter followers that share our stuff on a regular basis. What we do is we start to create lists in Twitter of the people that are real advocates of us, that are sharing our stuff all the time, and we watch what they do to see when they have good content, we share theirs. Social media is very reciprocal. So if you go to somebody's profile and you start endorsing a couple of their skills, they're going to get a notification of that. Some of them will endorse you back. It's a great way to do that. If they don't, doesn't matter. Don't do it with their expectation, but just understand that many will. And building your network is very important. So connect with alumni, really start to expand the size of your network, build relationships, and help get found by potential employers. And really, truly, it's going to help you with everything you do going forward. And so this is not just find a job. Once you find a job, there's going to be a whole new way that you can start using LinkedIn ongoing. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, by the way, you're welcome to. I have one simple request. And you tell me, give me a personalized note. Tell me that you saw me here because I'm very selective now. I'm like almost at my limit of how many people I can accept, so I only accept people that personalize their note to me. Okay, so just say, hey, Melanie, it was great seeing you at UC today, thanks for the talk, whatever. You stopped, all good, doesn't matter. Just give me a personal note. And I want to leave you with this final thought. And this is something that I see so many people do on LinkedIn. Business people, job seekers, salespeople, marketers, doesn't matter who they are. They collect connections. They're like, no, I have like 2,000 LinkedIn connections and I just don't understand why I've never gotten business from it. I'm like, well, have you ever built a relationship with any of those people? Have you ever followed up? Have you ever had a conversation? Oh, no. So you're just magically expecting things to happen. It doesn't work like that. So if you're going to collect connections, build relationships out of those. And this is the other thing. And this is hard for you guys to kind of get right now, but you will get this, as time goes on, as you start building your career. Your network will equal your network. LinkedIn is the best place that you can connect with people all different levels. I mean, I've got, some top influencers in the world that I'm connected with on LinkedIn. I've got celebrities that are connected with me on LinkedIn. I've got, New York Times bestselling authors. I've got a very large network of very prominent people. You can too, if you do it all right. And they might not be of value to you right now, but if you stay top of mind, and if you ever have a question, it's going to have such an advantage of just being in school too. You could reach out to these people and say, you could reach out to some very influential people. I rarely turn down students when they send me requests. I don't have to because I get so many media and interview requests, but if they ask me a simple question, they ask me anything that just is going to take 1 or 2 minutes of my time, I do it. If they start asking for a whole bunch of my time, now I have to look at my calendar and see if I can fit it in. So, you can do some really cool stuff, reach out to some very, influential people or decision makers in different companies and say, if you have just one piece of advice to give somebody that's just graduating from university, what would it be? And see how they can respond. I think that many of them would be really impressed too that you did that. But make sure you start off with a connection request message that's personalized, and then have a follow-up and say, hey, thank you so much for accepting my connection request. I'm really honored that somebody of your caliber would, accept one from, a stranger. I just have one question that I'd love to ask you if you don't mind. And if it's too much trouble, don't worry about it. But if you were to give one piece of advice, and just in one sentence, to somebody who's just graduating school, in 2015, where we are now in society and technology and whatnot, what would you say? And see what they say. Be kind of cool. Cool little experiment. All right, so do we have time for questions? Yeah? You guys are a quiet group. I don't know if there's going to be very many questions. Okay, go. One at the very back. You know what? We're going to have to make sure.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So, so how do you start in a way that just doesn't look like you're like,
Just do a little bit of stuff. Yeah, you have to sit there and try to ask people for 8 hours. Spend some time doing your profile, spend 15 stories in a day, about 15 people a day. I usually say 5 to 10, and then it'll start growing. And as you start, showing up in search results more, connecting with more people will connect with you too. And you guys are going to be funny because you're going to be like, when no one was speaking, she said she doesn't connect with people and take her personal notes, and you're going to get all kinds of people. They're going to make all kinds of mistakes because very few people do LinkedIn, right? And you're like, who is this person trying to connect with me on LinkedIn? Not even a personal note. Don't they know LinkedIn etiquette? Most of them don't. So I try not to judge. Although there is an element where I just have to shake my head on a regular basis and say, there's got to be a level of common sense here. Like, there's people out there, salespeople out there, that will connect with a new person, or business owners that will connect with a new person, and the first message afterwards, hey, will you give me a recommendation? Will you buy my stuff? Will you do this? Will you do that? So, who are you? And I just go, what? And remove them. So, you got to be careful about that. And, you're going to find all kinds on LinkedIn, just like you will on Facebook or Twitter. You get somebody that you regret connecting with, unconnect. If they're hassling you in any way, block. Okay? Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else? That's right here.
So the summary section has 2,000 characters.
Yes.
And what would you suggest, how many characters of that should we be using?
I max it out. I max it out all the time. I write a lot of profiles for people, and I usually write 3,000 characters, and then edit down, edit down, edit down. So, the more content you have in your LinkedIn profile, the more it shares who you are and why they should connect with you, but also the more likely you are to get found. Because people that have, one line have so little content for LinkedIn's algorithm to pull from if somebody's doing a search. So max it out. Max it. The headline is 120 characters. Use up every single one. Same with the summary. On the other sections like past work experience, I don't go crazy on those. Current, I do. Past stuff, paragraphs to make it look complete, but not 2,000 characters. Good question here too.
How often would you suggest to update it? And I don't mean, adding people or whatever.
Yeah, updating profile.
Your profile, your skills, all that. Like, is there a general?
No, there's no general rule. Update it when there's a significant change of any kind. That change could be significant or it could be insignificant. It could be. Did you realize that in the marketplace they're using new terminology now? I'm just trying to think. I was talking to a client today. What was the word that she used? She said, "Oh yeah, like the industry buzz. Everybody uses this term. I can't remember what it was." So I'm like, okay, well, let's use this term then. If there's a new industry buzz term that you might want to replace it with at a later date, do that. If you find a new key word that you want to add, like maybe you have a third one that you want to add, then add it. These changes, minimal. Like I update my profile once or twice a year. I get an award or something like that. When I wrote my book, I updated it. But I spent 15 minutes each time, sometimes 2 minutes. So the bulk of it's done the first time. And like I said, for you guys, it's a little bit different because once you move from seeking a job to being in a job, you will probably spend a little bit more than 15 minutes. You'll probably spend an hour just making a few changes and tweaks to get it up to speed because you don't want it to, in that job seeker mode when you're actually in a job. It's just something a little bit. Yes?
Sometimes I get connection requests from people that I don't know, that they may be in my industry, but I've never met them before. And most of the time, I just ignore those requests. Am I wrong to be doing that?
Okay, so let's talk about that. That's a great question. Thank you so much for bringing it up. Like I said before, you should not be posting anything personal on your LinkedIn profile. So there's no reason for you to guard your profile. You know how I was guarding my Facebook profile and just have my family and friends? It's not like that with LinkedIn. You're not posting, you should never post anything personal on there. So you can open it up and allow connection requests from people you don't know. Having said that, I'm still a little selective. I go through and I'm like, there's people that do, there's so much, scammers and just stuff on the internet that you have to be careful. So I look, I'm like, does this look like a real person? I get connection requests from people who say that they're the president of some country overseas, or they're the president's assistant, or like all kinds of random stuff. I see patterns. I've been doing this for a long time, so all of a sudden I'll see an influx in a day of, oh my gosh, I got account manager at 19, account manager at Hewlett Packard, account manager at listening, account manager, all Fortune 500 companies. I'm like, somebody's just created a shitload of spam accounts. Sorry. And they're targeting me because I just have a large network. Because remember, we left them. So, here's why you want to accept them, unless you can find a reason not to. Every single person you connect with is a win-win. You win because your network gets expanded now. And they win because their network gets expanded. The discrepancy in that win will vary based on how many connections. So like, for example, if you connected with me and you have 50 connections, and I've got 25,000, much bigger win for you, but that doesn't matter to me. I don't worry about that. But so it's a big win for you to broaden your network. So my rule of thumb is unless you can find a reason not to connect, makes sense. If you can find a reason, if you can't find a reason not to connect and you accept it and you regret it right afterwards because they pitch you, remove it. Okay. LinkedIn, removing people used to be really hard. It's really easy now, so just all the same space. Anybody else? Yes.
Hi. I was hoping you was great work for a while. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a UBC alumni and I have a professional career. I work here at UBC and I'm also a photographer. And my challenge is now looking at my LinkedIn profile.
I love that question. I get that question all the time. Okay, I'll give you an example of this. So I was doing a profile for a client who was a matchmaker. She had a matchmaking business. For executives, like, that didn't want to do online dating, stuff like that, and just matching them up. But she was also creating a licensing model. So she had successfully built this business in a couple of locations. Now she was licensing it across the country. So when we were setting up all of her social media for her, writing it all, creating the messaging, creating the branding, all that kind of stuff. And when it came to LinkedIn, I was like, okay, well, with Facebook and Twitter, we made it 100% focused on the consumer market, which was the end clients for her matchmaking service. When it came to LinkedIn, I was like, you can't be using LinkedIn to say, hey, are you single? If you need a matchmaker, you can't do that, right? So what I did is I was going to make it completely focused on the licensing model, but instead I decided to do an 80-20 split. So I'll do sometimes 50-50, 80-20, or 110, depends. And what I did is I thought, her target audience for her matchmaking service is absolutely on LinkedIn. They might find her, or if she's engaging with other people or in conversations in a group, they might see her in her headline. So I want to not take it completely away, but I want to focus her profile on what she was using LinkedIn for. So when she's using Facebook and Twitter, she's speaking to her consumers. When she's using LinkedIn, she's speaking to the potential licensees. So she had a specific, target audience that she was going after for that, and so we focused that. Now, in your case, you have to think about why are you using LinkedIn? Where are you going to benefit most? You're in a salaried position here, I would imagine. Your job doesn't involve you having to bring in new clients or anything like that, so you don't really have a lot of responsibility with using LinkedIn for your current position here. So your freelance photography business might be where you want to, do maybe a 70-30 or an 80-20. Okay? Does that help? Okay, good. One more question if anybody's got it. Okay, we're going to go right here. LinkedIn comes off at 30,000. So yeah, most people have a hard time getting to that. Now, having said that, you can only have up to 30,000 connections, but you can actually only send 3,000 connection requests. So don't just send a random connection requests to miscellaneous people you don't really want to be connected to. Now, in both cases, you can send a request to LinkedIn support and ask them to increase that number. So let's say, for example, you hit your 3,000 max of sending out invites. You say, hey, LinkedIn, just realized I reached my 3,000 max. Was really hoping that you could add more. Currently, they used to add them at 50. I haven't even reached my 3,000 max because everybody connects with me. I rarely ever send a connection request. I send one, maybe I send one a month. So but what I've heard now is that they're getting at 500 at a time. The same thing if you reach 30,000, which probably most of you never will. The people that do that are like recruiters and people like that are just like insane, right? They're just like adding because they need to. And they can ask for it, and apparently they're getting like 500 at a time for that too. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, Melanie. That was amazing. If you'd like to hear this presentation again, it will be made available as a podcast. I'm just going to move the slide over. On our website, alumni.ok.ubc.ca. And if you like this presentation, join us at the Your Next Steps event at Orchard Park Mall in Kelowna on March 31st, where you will learn how to dress to impress. And also, don't forget that whether you're a current student or a UBC Okanagan grad, you have a lifetime access to the Career Center here on campus. Come in for an in-person career assessment with an advisor or explore online career tools. And finally, for all graduating students this year, mark your calendars for a big class of 2015 celebration at Big White on Sunday, March 15. Make sure to check your email for your invitation. And that's it. Thanks again, Melanie Zadaro, and thank you all for being here tonight.